It's finally here. Apple's awe-dropping iPhone event is in just a few short days on Tuesday, September 9th at 10 a.m. Pacific, and will be, of course, live streamed to everyone who wants to see what new products Apple has in store for us. But in this video, we're going to go over everything that you can expect to see based on all of the most recent rumors. But before we get into everything that we expect, this would be a great time to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, as we will have tons of new videos over the next month, bringing you hands-on and reviews of all the new products, the new software releases, and so much more. So, obviously, we're expecting new iPhones, new Apple Watches, but let's start with sort of the surprise third product category, even though we've talked about it before, and that's AirPods Pro 3. Rumors suggest that the AirPods Pro 3 will have an updated form factor, though it's unclear what's exactly going to be changed. Given how little we've heard about the earbuds themselves, it may only feature some small design changes. Now, if we take a look back at the AirPods 4 charging case, which was updated last year, now it's the AirPods Pro's turn. The third generation case could be slimmed down, making the AirPods Pro even more pocketable. Apple has also removed the pairing button on the AirPods 4 case, adding an invisible capacitive button instead. And the same change is coming to the AirPods Pro, which, by the way, so much easier to reset your AirPods. You just tap on that spot like 4 times and it resets. Better than holding down the button on the back, and I quite like that. The LED on the AirPods Pro case could also be hidden beneath the surface, so it only shows up when it's on. Apple is working on a new chip for the AirPods Pro 3, so we expect that sound quality will be improved and we'll have better active noise cancellation. And Apple also introduced its in-ear heart rate tracker for the Powerbeats Pro 2. And so that's a feature we're also expected to be extended on down to the AirPods Pro 3. The AirPods will finally be able to measure heart rate during workouts, and temperature sensing capabilities are also a real possibility. Apple is also working on a live translation feature for the AirPods that will provide real-time translations for in-person conversations. The feature will build upon the live translation options introduced in iOS 26, and then it could then be unveiled alongside the AirPods Pro 3. All right, now let's jump back to the iPhones, and we'll start with, we've talked so much about the iPhone 17 lineup. We haven't really spent a whole lot of time on the iPhone 17 because it's kind of the lame duck of the iPhone lineup compared to the 17 Air and the 17 Pro or Pro Max. So let's start with the Air because it's just more interesting. Apple's planning to release a super thin iPhone that will replace the Plus option from the last few years. And while we don't exactly know if the 17 Air is in fact going to be the correct name, I sure hope it is because, well, I'm so used to calling it the 17 Air that I am going to be confused and probably call it once it's named something else. But we can expect the biggest design updates for the iPhone in the last decade to come with this model. The 17 Air will be around 5.5 millimeters thin, which means it's going to be more than 2 millimeters thinner than the 7.8 millimeter iPhone 16s. It'll be the thinnest iPhone Apple's released to date, though it won't be quite as thin as the 12.9-inch iPad Pro. There will be a thicker camera area, with Apple adding a pill-shaped horizontal camera bump to accommodate a single-lens 48-megapixel rear camera and flash setup. At the front, there will be a new 24-megapixel selfie camera that'll actually be across the board on all 17 models, an improvement over the 12-megapixel front-facing camera in the current models. The iPhone 17 Air should feature either an A19 chip or an A19 Pro that's slightly modified with one slightly less GPU core than what we're getting with the 17 Pro, but there also should be that vapor chamber heatsink that will improve thermal performance. And we're expecting to get 12 gigs of RAM, which is higher than the standard 17 model and right in line with the Pros. We've heard some rumors about a slimmer dynamic island, but that probably won't happen. The 17 Air is expected to get other standard iPhone features, however, like MagSafe, camera control, and the action button. Now, there won't be a SIM card tray, which we're used to here in the US. Apple plans to use the C1 modem in the 17 Air, which was the modem that was introduced in the iPhone 16e, and it does not support millimeter 5G speeds. Let's switch over to the iPhone 17 Pro models. Here we're getting some updates that will improve the durability and the change and look and feel of the devices. Rather than titanium frame, Apple is rumored to be swapping back to aluminum and also doing away with some of the glass at the back. Rumors suggest the 17 Pro models will have a half glass, half aluminum design, with the glass area being the most crucial part for MagSafe charging. Otherwise, if we could wirelessly charged with aluminum, there would be no glass. I'm guessing. The rest of the iPhone chassis will be aluminum, improving durability because aluminum is just, much less breakable than glass. Rather than a squared-shaped bump at the left of the iPhone, there will now be a large horizontal bump that takes up nearly the entire width of the device. There will continue to be 3 lenses, and they're not really moving much, but the flash and LiDAR sensor are going to be shifted all the way down to the right-hand side. The antenna lines on the iPhone 17 Pro models could wrap back to the camera bump, and Apple might be getting rid of the bottom antenna lines. The iPhone 17 Pro models will come in orange, which I'm super excited for if you don't already know and heard me say a million times already. I'm just praying that the shade of orange isn't terrible. Dark blue, which also looks really, really good. And then there's a gray, white, and black. Orange is an unusual shade for Apple to choose for the Pro lineup. We've never seen something like that before. So it might end up being a little bit more muted, maybe a copper shade, which I would actually be okay with. As for the display, it's going to look largely the same, but Apple might add a more scratch-resistant, anti-reflective coating. The coating could be more durable than the ceramic shield, while also cutting down on reflections. But it won't look as dramatic as nanotexture. For performance, we're expecting the brand new A19 Pro chip and 12 gigs of RAM, like we mentioned with the 17 Air. And there were even rumors about a 5,000 mAh battery for the 17 Pro Max. The iPhone 17 Pro models will have an updated 48 megapixel telephoto lens, which means all 3 lenses will be 48 megapixels for the first time. Some rumors have suggested that the new telephoto lens will support up to 8x optical zoom, and the main camera could possibly have an adjustable aperture. Apple's planning on a dual video recording feature that uses the front and rear camera simultaneously, like what you can do already on the iPhone, but with Snapchat, for example, or other third-party applications. And we'll have that same 24 megapixel front-facing camera that's upgraded over the 12 that we've had for years. All right, so that's all the interesting stuff with the AirPods Pro 3 and the 17 lineup. Let's move on to Apple Watch. We'll start with the Apple Watch Ultra 3. We're expecting to finally get a 3rd generation introduced with a few changes. Like last year, we saw in the Series 10 an updated LTPO3 display that was 40% brighter when viewed at various angles and adds minimum brightness drops to 1 nit to allow for always-on second hand that updates even when the wrist is down. Apple isn't updating the size of the Ultra 3, but it will have a bigger display. Code found in iOS 26 suggests that the display will measure in at about 422 by 514 pixels, up from the 410 by 502 that's on the current model. The larger display will most likely mean the bezels are getting slimmer. Apple Watch Ultra 3 is also expected to include an updated S11 chip, but the S11 is going to offer the same performance as the S9 and S10. It just has the same underlying processor technology. Since the current Apple Watch Ultra case uses the S9, there may not be much in the way of performance improvements. Apple has been working on a blood pressure hypertension monitoring technology feature for quite a while, and it could be finally ready to debut in 2025 with these new Apple Watch models. Now, it's still not clear yet if this is actually coming this year, but rumors have suggested that it could, and if it is, it's going to be more limited than like standard blood pressure monitoring devices. The feature won't provide specific systolic or diastolic readings, but will instead track blood pressure trends and let the wearer know if hypertension is possibly detected. Apple Watch users could then share that information with their healthcare professional for further investigation. The Apple Watch Ultra 3 will be Apple's first watch with satellite connectivity, enabling satellite-based texting, an emergency SOS feature that can be used when there's no cellular or Wi-Fi connectivity available. Now, in terms of the Watch 11, basically feature parity, aside from probably the emergency SOS satellite connectivity texting feature, but we can expect the blood pressure monitoring features, the S11 chip, 5G RedCap modem, and maybe some surprise features since rumors were quite limited with the standard Apple Watch model. Apple could update the Apple Watch SE, though, with a 1.6-inch and 1.8-inch display sizes. It's possible that Apple is planning to transition to the Apple Watch Series 7 design for the Apple Watch SE, which would see it be made in available 41 and 44 millimeter sizes. The current Apple Watch SE comes in the older 40 and 44 millimeter options. With the Series 7, Apple also changed the design of the watch, introducing a slimmer casing and smaller bezels, so we're expecting the more modern look and feel for the SE this go around, but not as updated as last year's Series 10. There have been some rumors suggesting that Apple Watch SE 3 could have a colorful plastic casing, which I'd be all for, but Apple may have scrapped that design. Apple's awe-dropping event will start at 10 a.m. Pacific, as I mentioned earlier, 1 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, September 9th, and Apple will live stream the event on its website, on YouTube, and through the Apple TV app on supported devices. For those who cannot watch the live stream, MacRumors will be providing full event coverage on MacRumors.com and the MacRumors Live Twitter account. But of course, be sure to subscribe to the channel, as I said earlier, so you don't miss my coverage after the event, where I'll be going hands-on with all of the announced products. This has been Dan with MacRumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you around in the next video.